The ARK Company is a small but big map that you do well to leave from with less than 500k in values. You just need to know where to look, which is what this guide will help you do. Let's start out with the Lighthouse. This is a building very much worth visiting if you're in the area because of its many weapon cases. The lighthouse itself could easily hold values in the 100k area and even more. The first floor has a weapons case and a suitcase. Moving on to the second floor, you'll find 2 computer cases and a safe hidden under the desk in the corner. You might have to wiggle about for a bit to be able to interact with the safe. On the shelves behind the safe, you'll find an ammo case and an arms box. The third floor, also known as the roof, only has a weapons case. You'll also find an elite marauder here most of the time that might have a Mosin or other fancy stuff. On your way over to the living area, you'll find 2 houses. The one closest to the lighthouse has some loose loot, a suitcase and a computer case. Even though the next house is 3 times bigger, it's actually worse in terms of loot. The first floor is pretty much all hallway and a garage that has some loose loot on this shelf. The second floor has a storage case, a sports bag and a balcony that you can jump off to end your misery after wasting time here. The living quarters have quite a few small houses that all have some loot in them, but you won't find anything almighty special here. I usually don't bother with this area, but let's go through it anyways. The first house up here is a small one and it's reflected in its loot. There's a supply box on the couch, some jewelry besides the TV and some weapons parts on the table. The next house over is a bit more valuable. The first floor has a storage case and some loose spawns on the couch. On the second floor you'll find a safe, as well as some loose electronics in one room and some loose loot in the next room. Safes are always worth opening. The next house over again is a good place to stock up on some food and drinks. There's some plastic on the outside and on the inside you'll often find fuel on the first floor. The second floor has some food, drinks and medical items spread around as loose loot. The next house has very little loot. There's some loose loot on the table here and a sports bag on the bed. Yawn. The next house again finally has something interesting. The first floor has a suitcase in the main room and some loose wires in the back room. On the second floor you'll find a portable fitness bag and a suitcase in one room and a computer case and a safe in the other room. The last house here is locked and requires the house key to be opened. If you're not a key guy, you can also climb onto the subway entrance to break in through the window and you can actually loot this house even if you do. I rarely find much here, but there's a computer case near the window and some loose loot on the shelves and spread around the second floor. The first floor has a suitcase and a storage case. You'll have to leave through the same window to get out. From here we move on to the underground, just beside the locked house. And oh boy, you'll usually leave the underground with a value close to 300k if you do it right. I won't show you the entire underground as most of it is just tables and boxes with singular loose loot spawns on top of them. You'll find weapon parts, food, drink and medical items. I've also found a defibrillator on several locations as well as some relatively rare medical items down here, so I'm assuming they have a high chance of spawning here. Areas of interest would be the locked room right here, requiring the underground lab keycard to be opened. It has 4 medical cases inside as well as a sports bag. I haven't found the containers to spawn anything special but standard healing items, so just skip this room unless you need those. Further south, you'll find a rather large room worth a stop. There's 2 jackets on the wall and a dead firefly that might hold some keys. There's also an arms box, a weapon case and some loose loot scattered around on the beds. There's 2 adjoining rooms to this one with a suitcase and a medicine case and another with 2 computer cases and some loose loot. The room with the 2 computer cases also has the infamous Yuki Rin's hidden room connected to it. This is a fantastic room that always spawns a high-end weapon in the middle and you're in bad luck if you leave this room with less than 250k in value. I mentioned how to craft this key in my Windswept Harbor guide, so if you want to know how to get this key, go watch that video after this video. Smashing through the windows next to the jackets, you'll eventually reach the southernmost room, and this room looks quite fancy, but it doesn't show in the loot. There's a medicine case and 2 computer cases on the surrounding desks. If you leave up the stairs, you'll get to the storehouse area, which I guess I'll cover next. The southern warehouse here has a good few loose loot spawns. I guess you could call this the warehouse of many things, because I feel like I found items from literally every item group in here. There's tools, electronics, energy items, loose money, jewelry and so on and so forth. They spawn randomly on the shelves, so give them a sweep. It's a hit or miss building that's worth running through if you're in the area in my opinion, due to the diversity in loot. I'm gonna cover these 3 warehouses here as one because they are all pretty much the same. Basically, each one of them has a supplies box and a good amount of loose loot scattered around. From my experience, you'll mostly find tools, energy items and some grenades. There is also a small amount of electronic components and fuel in addition to 2 ammo cases. Generally, I skip this warehouse due to its sheer size. Let's move over to the port area. The little house at the north doesn't look very interesting, and that's because it really isn't. The first floor has a locked room requiring the harbor area reception room keycard. It's a half-decent room that's worth opening on your way to extraction. It has a suitcase, a fitness bag and 2 supplies boxes. Apart from this, there's a fitness bag and some loose loot on the first floor. The second floor has more loose loot, a medicine case, grenade box and fitness bag. There does seem to be a decent concentration of healing and medical items in this building. I often find painkillers here, and the port area in general often has a Maydolin first aid kit lying around somewhere. The large warehouse building is a bit of a mess, so I'll try to cover it in sections. The first floor basically has a hallway lined with rooms and a warehouse area. The hallway section mostly has loose loot randomly scattered around in the open rooms. The one room seems to always have a weapon part on the couch. I found a camera here on several occasions, so that might be worth looking out for as well. You'll also find 2 locked rooms. One of them requires the Harbor Area 1F office key. There's 2 suitcases and a supplies box in here. Not the greatest. The other requires the Harbor Area control room key. This room isn't much better with its fitness bag and computer case. At the end of the hallway, you'll find shelves that often have tools on them. The warehouse area isn't really that special. It's kind of like the largest building in the storehouse area. There's a lot of loose loot scattered around, but there's not really anything special to find. I have yet to find anything worth mentioning in this room. You can find a bit of fuel here though, but apart from that I wouldn't waste my time running around here at all. From the warehouse you can reach the second floor, which has a hallway much like the one on the first floor. This hallway has the same kind of rooms, only with more loot containers and less loose loot. In total you'll find 2 computer cases, an ammo case and a storage case. There's also a locked room requiring the Harbor Area 2F depot key. There's a supplies box and a weapons case in here. I did find a KC-416 in here, and I don't know if that's just random or if it has a specific chance to spawn here. Might be worth checking out. It's also worth knowing that the solar panels on the roof sometimes have loose loot on them. Rarely anything special however. Next up, we have the medicine factory. Let's start with the waste of space that is the north building. It's large and only houses a suitcase and an ammo case. The ammo case is of course good for those ammo unlocks, but apart from that, this building is underwhelming. One house down, we find a bunch of loose loot all around. There's a little something in all of the rooms except for the bathroom. You seem to always find some fuel here and a mix of other items, electronics especially. There is one portable fitness bag in the office on the second floor. The second floor also has a locked room requiring the pharma area control room key. Inside you'll find a suitcase, a computer case and 1 piece of jewelry or loose cash on the table. I found a gold diamond ring here twice, and there's often bundles of cash. All in all, a good room. The next building has a rather underwhelming first floor. There's some loose loot around the shelves and on the floor, but not really anything of note. There might be some fuel here from time to time, and I have found gun oil here on several occasions. There is a locked room here requiring the Pharma Area 1F dispensing room key, but I've never gone in here as when looking through the window from the outside, I've never seen anything worthwhile. The second floor has one open room with a fitness bag, computer case and medicine case inside. On the opposite side of the hallway, there is a locked room requiring the Pharma Area 2F manager office keycard. There's some loose loot, a computer case and a weapons case in here. A worthwhile room if you're in the area. The last building in the medicine factory is in ruins, and that's reflected in the loot. There's some weapon parts on the tables inside, but no loot containers or other things of interest to find. The ARK Company itself is the crown jewel of this map. It's kind of like the hospital on Windswept Harbor. There's several buildings with several floors, all containing a bunch of both open and locked rooms. Systematically going through it for this guide was pure pain. Let's start with the worst of the buildings, which is the ruined building in the northwest corner. There's some loose loot scattered around on the first floor, and I found fuel tanks on several locations right here. The second floor is practically empty of loot, with the exception of this weapons case in one of the bathroom stalls. Moving east, we find Block D, which is a solid building to go looting. The first floor has a good few open rooms, and each one of them, with 2 exceptions, has a computer in them. In the east end, there's one big room with 2 computers and a medicine case, and the one shop-like room which has a storage case alongside food and healing items. There's also a locked room here, requiring the Block D1F lab keycard. It's not really a special room, with only a storage case and medicine case inside, but I often had good luck with the storage cases, both in terms of keys and valuables. The second floor of the D block has less rooms. The open hallway area has a bit of loose loot on the couches and tables, as well as a fitness bag on one table and a dead firefly in the southeast corner. Just to the left of the stairs, you'll find an open room with a jacket for keys and a portable fitness bag alongside loose loot on the table. Right next to the dead firefly, there's a locked room requiring the Block D2F office keycard. With 2 fitness bags, a computer case and a weapons case, this can be quite a profitable room. This caged area is also behind the locked door requiring the Block D2F counter keycard. This keycard is useless as you can enter through the window if you climb out from the walkway leading to the next block. The loot in here is pretty weak though, so you decide if it's worth the hassle. The third floor is pretty much a copy of the second floor in terms of layout. The open hallway area still has loose loot, with most of it being food and drinks. The caged in area is open here and has a weapons case inside. It's actually better than the one on the second floor. The room next to the elevator has a jacket and computer case inside, both worth checking. The locked room here is in the same spot as on the second floor and requires the Block D3F computer room keycard. This is a very good room with a suitcase, 2 computer cases, 1 arms box and 1 supplies box inside. Block D also has a roof with some loose loot on the benches and an arms box near the east end. Block A is by far the largest building. On the first floor, none of the open rooms really stand out, and most of them have at least 1 loot container. For the most part, you'll find computer cases and fitness bags. Kind of like the first floor of the D block. There's a locked room just opposite of the main entrance requiring the Block A control room keycard. It only has loose loot, but as you can see it tends to be decent loose loot. There's no gold diamond ring here every time, but I've seen it several times here. The second floor is also lined with open rooms, but these have even less interesting stuff in them than the first floor. There's a lot of loose loot to be found, as well as a supplies box, suitcase and a computer case split across all of the rooms. The floor can easily hold 100k in value, but is through a lot of low value items. I rarely bother with this floor as it's a bit of a hassle to go through in my opinion. The third floor is a rather good floor. Coming up the stairs in the northern part of the building, you'll find a room on your left with a fitness bag inside and another one just outside it. Moving south through the floor, you'll find an open office space with a bunch of computer cases and a grenade box. Turning the corner of the building, we run into 2 locked rooms. The first requires the Block A3F Office 1 keycard. Inside you'll find 2 computer cases and a supply box. It's a pretty mid-range room. The next room here requires a Block A3F Office 2 keycard. Inside you'll find 2 portable fitness bags, a supplies box and some loose loot. Pretty much the same as the other one. Opposite of this room, there's an elevator shaft with a weapons case inside. To get the most value out of this area, bring both of these keys. Continuing westwards, there's 3 more rooms. The first room has some loose loot, which is often medical items. The next room is a rather large office with 2 grenade boxes, an ammo case, a jacket and a computer case. There's also some loose loot around the tables. The last room has a medicine case and loose loot. The fourth floor is a good floor for food, drinks and healing items. Coming up the stairs on the west side, you'll find a small room with loose loot on your left. Outside, there's a large lab where you might find food, drink, healing items, medical items, weapon parts and even whole weapons. There's several of these labs with the same loot scheme on this floor. Moving down the hall, we find a locked room requiring the Block A 4F lab keycard to be opened. There's a supply box and a storage case inside this one. Storage cases often have some good key and valuable spawns, as I've said before, so this may turn into a decent room. The room in the corner here has never had any loot for me. There's 2 more labs down the hallway similar to the first one, and at the end there's a room with a weapons case and a supplies box. Climbing up to the 5th floor of this never-ending building, we reach a small outside area. If you enter from the northern part of the building, you'll see some boxes to your right where you can climb up to find an adamant firefly bundle and a weapons case. Apart from this, you'll find loose loot on the benches and tables as well as a fitness bag on one table. Moving inside, you'll find 2 rooms right in front of you which have never held any loot for me. This floor in general is quite desolate of loot until you reach the west wing, which has a locked room requiring the Block A 5L computer room keycard. This is potentially a very good room with a safe, arms box and 2 dead fireflies. Dead fireflies often has good keys. There's also a toolbox in the next room and a sports bag in the bathroom. Climbing the stairs one final time, you reach the roof. There isn't much up here, but you'll find an ammo case and a dead marauder. If you climb the bigger red thing, you'll also find another adamant firefly bundle. I also think this is the only place in the game high enough to jump off and almost kill yourself with full health, which is tempting after making a guide for this building. The last building is the movie theater building, or Block B as it's officially called. This is a special building as it has a chance of spawning the big boss called Raymond. The first 2 floors are basically absence of loot. The big movie theater you can enter from both floors is where the boss might spawn. There are a few sports bags sitting between the seats here. Personally, I've never seen the boss, so I'm not able to show you how he looks or what he drops. On the third floor you'll finally find some loot. There's a small canteen area with some food and drink on the tables. Moving south through the building you'll find a locked room at the end of the hallway requiring the movie theater manager keycard. There's 2 supplies boxes in here and some loose loot on the table. Not much to brag about. On the 4th floor we'll find a good few computer cases. There's 2 in the first room on the left and another 2 alongside 2 medicine cases in the next room. Across the hall there's a locked room requiring the Block B4L conference room keycard. Inside you'll find a computer case and 2 fitness bags. Not the best of rooms. If you haven't watched my guide for the Windswept Harbor yet, I recommend you do so right now to up your game on that map as well. And don't forget to subscribe for more guides like this. See you in the next one.